Hi guys, this is Lee. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to play a short clip of what's been going on in the UK. There was this a video held for Sarah Everard. So anyway, apparently the police were very heavy-handed with peaceful protesters. All the numerology numbers are all in there. The woman was 33 when she got killed, and she was kidnapped by a serving police officer in the Metropolitan Police. And they're on about police brutality in cells, which I've experienced myself, with the police that are very heavy-handed. And I told officers that came here later on, which they were picking on me for a bit, and I said if they had guns I would have been shot at dawn. So, and I'll explain in this quick podcast about my own personal experience with being raped, and that apparently that 5 years ago they stopped in our country to prosecute any rape victims. It's going to help for the women and children, especially the girls, but the men again, we've been left behind with, we have little to no support at all, anything. So it's just my friend Mr. 2, but I gotta do things. I'm not very well, so I will contact her shortly. So let's see what happened in the Sun's report.
From the smallest transaction to your biggest ambition.
Sorry for that. So that's what I don't want to get any copyright strikes, but it was very, very peaceful, and here's a little recording of what happened to the they recovered a body, but this is what happened here.
A wonderful daughter and sister who brought so much joy and always put others first. That's how the family of Sarah Everard described her. This afternoon they received a devastating update that the body found on Wednesday been identified as her.
My thoughts and prayers and those of the entire organisation remain with her and with them at this awful time. I know that the public feel hurt and angry about what has happened, and those are sentiments that I share personally, and I know my colleagues here at Scotland Yard and across the Met share. I also recognise the wider...
And I don't want to go right out and say all police are bad. There's absolutely lovely police in the police force, but my personal experience is that they are all going to be leaving soon because they've had enough. I was speaking to one. I interviewed one police officer not long ago, which came to my house, and I won't mention his name, but he said he's been in the police force for over 25 years, and the way that they're recruiting police officers now are, they got to be a certain way. They got to be sort of kind of detached. I know that they got to be trained as they train them a certain way, and they're careless. They apparently individual last night held that of course was one woman that had one police officer that had his knee on her neck, which is quite reminiscent from what happens in America, where they believe the stories or not. The police are getting worse, and they're bullies. There's one woman that was walking home, and she was showing pictures of the police poking her in the back for just walking home. There was another couple that were walking to a gym, and they were bullying one person because they wouldn't wear a mask, and they were trying to arrest that person, and only because that they asked what's going on, because people have had enough. We have had enough of this now. Plandemic, whatever you want to call it. That we have all seemed to have gone, we can't keep silent no more, that we've all bend the knee, we can't do that, and they want us to uprise so they can tighten their grip like a snake around our necks, like an anaconda around the world. And so in the end we can't breathe, you know. This is all to do with their plans of the NWO. And so we'll go on and see what he has to say quickly. I don't want to get any copyright strikes because that's what I'm talking in between. But this is, he's got. They've got to say this because this is what's happening. This has been happening for years. They're only now bringing this out. They just want us to get so mad that that they want complete anarchy. That's what they want.
Concerns that are being raised quite rightly about the safety of women in public spaces.
Of course, men are left behind because they, as men, they never, it's our society, like the left or the right, it doesn't matter, guys. It's all planned. They're just trying to divide us, no matter what color you are, age, what generation you come from, whether it's X, baby boomers, whatever it is, is always trying to divide us. So, like it says in the Bible, no house can fight against itself. So it's divide and conquer. That's what it all is,
Everard's body was discovered on this land, close to a disused paintball centre near Ashford. There is an extensive police operation ongoing in these secluded woodlands. This is about as close as we can get, and we're told there are 150 officers involved, including specialist diving
red and black. Which colours?
Teams. They're carefully combing through the site. A serving police officer remains in custody in connection with this case. He is in the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command, which means he's authorised to use firearms. He was arrested at his home in Deal on suspicion of kidnap and murder of the 33-year-old.
So you got 33 yet again, and this guy is allowed to use the firearms. That's what I said when the police officers came to my house when I was attacked by a friend. When he was drunk, he turned nasty, and only because he rang first, I then was arrested for a night, put into slammed, beaten to hell and back in my own home after one assault. Then the police escalated it, and they couldn't put the handcuffs on me because obviously I know Kikido and I know how to use their strength against their own. So it took 3 police officers I wasn't actually fighting them. I was just gently relaxed. And they eventually put the cuffs on me around my back. They reckon that they double handcuffed me and they put me over the bed, and one police officer pushed me to a state where reminiscence of they knew that I was raped, and that they put me into a rape position, and I obviously went berserk. So I'm going to talk about my own case as well as we talk about this lady here.
Sarah Everard was last seen alive on the 3rd of March, walking home in South London. This is the only CCTV image released by police so far.
So how can it be, for a minute, how can it be only one last image of this woman in London, the most heavily CCTV operated system in the world? In fact, Britain is the highest in the world with CCTV cameras everywhere, and I mean everywhere. So there's no way that was the last ever image of that woman. And London especially has got, because of the terrorist attacks we've had, and they were again training missions, we can't exactly say, but after their the event in 2001, the 2001, which devastated the world, and our freedoms were never the same again after. So here we go again.
The Met has confirmed to Channel 4 News it is also investigating 2 separate incidents of indecent exposure at a fast food restaurant in South London on the 28th of February. And the force itself is now being investigated by the police watchdog, the IOPC, over how Met police officers responded to a report of indecent exposure on the same day. So there may be serious questions for the Met about its handling of this case.
And this goes back decades. There's police officers that are hidden, that are hiding rape cases that are going on in many different parts of England. Due to they won't go obviously investigate because they don't want to seem racist. They're now because of obviously our borders are wide open. That's why we wanted to leave the EU, because we had to take in so many refugees, and we want to go to a point system like they did in Australia. That's what we want, so we can have control over our borders again and our fishing waters. So it's a bit over the discussion. I was just basically random rants of what I'm talking about, but this is close to my heart. I've seen this happen, and why it's coming out now. If it have taken a woman that's got killed by an officer that is got access to all this kind of he's got access to extremely dangerous equipment, let's be honest. And this is what they want. More and more police officers are going to be have firearms. But last year, the year before last, I was knife attacked in my own street by a neighbour, and police officers responded quickly, fair play, and they were great, but they didn't even do anything because this guy is a bit of a snitch, and he reports back. He's a dealer, and because he's a paedophile, and he's a snitch for the coppers because they go over on him. So here we go again.
The force is already facing criticism for attempting to stop women holding a vigil under coronavirus laws. Reclaim the Streets campaigners want to express their grief over Sarah Everard's murder and concern over women's safety. They were forced to go to court after the Met declared it was illegal.
I don't know why it's ever ended up in court. I think the Metropolitan Police have woefully mishandled it. They should have sat down with those women's organisations who are not exactly a lawless mob. They are just women who want to call attention to this awful situation. Why should a woman have to live in fear? Why should she have to look over her shoulder? Why should she be subject to an unofficial curfew where she can't go out running after dark?
I totally understand.
And that goes for men too. I mean, we had Fathers for Justice, because under our laws, no matter if a woman is more abusive to her children than a man, and a father is deemed to be a good father, it's harder for us to claim rights for a father to not own their own child, but to have responsible for their own safety of their children. And women are fair play to these women. They've gone out and they wanted to do this vigil peacefully, and I'll show you what happened in a bit, but as I did earlier, but I'm breaking this up because I don't want to have any copyright strikes. So this is Channel 4 News. This is their news story and coverage. So here we go again.
Why this was our streets in safety.
Yet tonight, as women continue to talk about how to make our lives safer and questions are asked of the Met Police, one woman has already lost her life in terrible circumstances. Sarah Everard, a woman whose family say was a shining example to us all.
So here we go again. So we got the woman in black and red, which is the occultic colours. We need obviously nothing wrong in the colour of anyone's skin. It's the content of their character. Martha, Dr. Luther King, which but this is just not a non-stop violence towards us all, really. The continuation of loss of freedoms, and I believe that they want to disassociate our younger generation now to go into this new normalcy. So these people will be the right people for future jobs, which will not feel empathy at all for their fellow. Which in our country it's subject, but in like America, or in other countries it's citizen. So it's all the same, And Queen Victoria's desk in the Oval Office says it all.
And in the last few minutes, we have received that judgment from the High Court, and campaigners have not got the outcome they wanted. They wanted the judge to say that a ban on gatherings shouldn't apply to their vigil because under human rights law, they have the right to protest. The judge refused to intervene. So as it stands, the official vigils in London and elsewhere in cities such as Bristol will be cancelled. Whether women unofficially gather remains to be seen. Now, the Met Police say while they understand the anger and they have sympathy for the cause that campaigners want to protest about, in the context of coronavirus, they cannot allow gatherings because of the...
And, I'm tired of everyone hiding behind coronavirus. Corona. It's like our surgery. I can't even get to see my doctor. I couldn't get any medical access for over 3 to 4 months for my tooth. In the end, I couldn't. I had less rights than if somebody walked in off a boat or through a tunnel onto our island, and for 3 months I had a root that was exposed from a broken tooth, and in the end I lost my tooth, and they still haven't put my tooth back. And it's happening all over. Our system is completely broken. It's snapped on the back, and they just they want complete absolute outrage. This is why the courts ain't allowing anything to go on, any vigils like this, and they did in fact held their own vigils anyway, despite what the court said, which they had the right to. Outside Parliament, there's a land called where it's owned by the people, but they've put up fences long before that, 8-foot fences, and a guy went over the fence and sat in protest. And what happened was, police officers came and arrested him, and that is totally against the law. So we haven't got any rights in our country. It's all an illusion. It's like Mother Goose. It's make-believe, It's like the Three Little Pigs, as George Carlin says, There's a lot of truth in what he said. And today he'd be deemed as a conservative. And he's actually liberal comedian in America, which is absolutely hilarious. But he was right, an extremely intelligent man. And, but he would be deemed on the right today. That was liberalism. But we got cancel culture. If they don't seem, if something's deemed that they don't like, the triggers. What it is, they're not bringing up our children to see how hard the world really is. We got medals that if you lose. Years ago when I was in school, you'd have medals if you win, and then you would have first and second or third place, and then you wouldn't have a medal at all. But they give medals to everyone. So what's the point of winning, something, or getting good at something when you're all going to have a medal anyway?
To public health. I think it's worth reflecting. We are at the end of a week that has been incredibly upsetting and traumatic, first and foremost for Sarah Everard's friends and family, also for the very many women who this case has particularly resonated with, but lastly for the Met, who've also had a torrid week and again end up with very many questions to answer.
So
Really? Wow. Jeez.
Sorry about the
This evening, detectives and search teams investigating Sarah's disappearance have very sadly discovered what we believe at this stage to be human remains. The news today that it was a Metropolitan Police officer that was arrested on suspicion of Sarah's murder has sent waves of shock and anger through the public and through the whole of the Met.
Now, this girl is 33. So I would like to look into a case further. You know, I did sort of follow it, but it's been so much happening, and that it is impossible. There's so many cases of this happening. And only now they're drawing attention. There was a guy that they're on about in police cells. There was that received a head wound. It's in one of our stories in the UK. But there's a guy with mental health problems, and what they did, they double handcuffed him, and they sort of carried him out, and he died in their custody, and it's happening all the time, right throughout the United Kingdom, through all 4 countries of the United Kingdom. It is absolutely corrupt to the core, from the top to the bottom. And I'll explain about my case very quickly. After I let this girl be reported on. So Wayne Cousins is being questioned. 49-year-old in the Diplomatic Protection Command, and is married father of 2 from Deal, Kent. So this guy had access to, he was in the military, he's been responsible for looking after very, very sensitive stuff in the United Kingdom. Now these are all covered by cameras, so how can she be last seen there? And this is the last image of a CCTV captured. And I think, to be honest with you, they haven't reported on any robberies in shops, but they made such a fuss that they needed to for women to be to take the hijab off, so they can be seen, so they can be identified. And then we got everyone with glasses on and a mask and a hat, which I went into going in a shop one day, and they didn't even know it was me until I spoke. So robberies can be, how can they identify anyone? It's all bull. So here we go into what happens in the... Do you know, I see so many adverts going on. It's absolutely astonishing to me. I find a video on here lately. A
vigil turns violent. Sirens and screaming as the memorial for a woman allegedly murdered by a policeman is disrupted by the police.
Disrupted by the police. This is how heavy-handed. They're not even showing you how bad it was.
Shame on you! Shame on you! You're here against us because you are against us. You're not with us.
And we're supposed to be all in together. Well, we are, but the people that got the money, they're the ones that are truly free. Charlie Chaplin, the dictator's speech says it the best. I know that off by heart. And I can tell you something, it was made in 1933, and I tell you what, 1933, the 3 3s again. But anyway, that was before the rise of N Germany, and WW the ... 2. So try and get that in your algorithms. But we are absolutely on now. We are at the mercy of... We're at the mercy of the higher power. They are now going to start if we don't have the jab, we won't be allowed to gather. Yeah, and if you have a couple of jabs, you're still not allowed to gather. You still got to wear a face mask anyway, So it's all bull.
Earlier, thousands arrived at Clapham in South London, where 33-year-old Sarah Everard was last seen alive. Among the mourners, the Duchess of Cambridge, a palace source saying she wanted to pay her respects because she remembers what it felt like to walk around London at night before she got married. Just kilometres away, 48-year-old officer Wayne Cousins appeared in court, charged with kidnapping and murder.
She took a safe route, a well-lit safe route, and I can relate to that. I would do it. You're entitled to walk home.
Every woman I know has had some kind of awful experience with sexual harassment or assault.
But so is men, you know. There's nothing protecting men either, and they're getting raped. I worked in Smartlands, and I can tell you something now. The abuse towards men is skyrocketed through the years, and it always has been. But men are less likely to report it than a woman because we're shamed. Right throughout history, men have been shamed. We've been deemed. If a woman was more forthright than a man, he would be dragged through the villages and he would be shamed. It goes back generations, hundreds of years, where men are shamed. We've always been shamed up. And, you know, in the First World War, you know, they had these women that would come around with feathers, and they would put them in men's sleeves or try to pin them on them. And this is what the narrative says, so that they would fight in the First World War, and they'd never come home, and they maybe would have had a wife and 2 kids to feed. But he was shamed so much that he had to join a war to be, well, sacrificed, really, isn't it? You know, for our country, which is, why don't the people that dispute their own lands, why don't they just fight? Why have they got to involve us?
London still in lockdown, organisers encourage candles be lit on doorsteps like this at the Prime Minister's home, but thousands still converged on Clapham Common. Police dispersing the crowd, pushing mourners over a park bench, covered in the floral tributes laid just minutes earlier. London Mayor said,
Disgusting, shame. There's no respect for us as public. They're not with us at all. The police are not with us. Never have been. They had such respect once. The old police officers had a lot of respect of us. I can give countless examples where our own police officers, my own grandfather was in the Tonopandi riots, and they only wanted better wages for the miners, you know, and better conditions. And so our own police force wouldn't go against, obviously the Bobbies knew our own communities, so they shipped us out, and Winston Churchill shipped in the English officers from London, and they were charging us and killing us, and my grandfather knew about horses and how to kill a horse, and he said, if you ever charge me with that horse again, I will do something which I can't say how you do it. And he wasn't charged again. But, you know, Tonopandi riots is, look it up. I mean, it's disgusting. So, yeah.
That Khan tweeting it was unacceptable. And while the police have a responsibility to enforce COVID laws, it's clear the response was at times neither appropriate or proportionate.
And it's against the law. It's not a law, you know. It was a suggestion, and people went along with it. You know, it's always a suggestion. You know, before we went into lockdown, it was only supposed to be for so long, and it's a gradual decrease in our human rights, which has never been there really, and yeah, so.
City, already anxious from COVID, now slips closer to crisis, and the family at the centre.
I don't know. People ain't so anxious about COVID. When I walk into, you know, to sort of when I walk into local shops, there's no one around anyway. But when I am around people, the younger generation are taking selfies with each other, and they're taking no notice. There's no people not wearing face masks really when they're walking around. What do you say?
Continues to mourn. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
That's off 9 News there. So yeah. Piers Morgan was the only thing remotely interesting about Good Morning Britain. Well, I can do a video on him soon. So as we go through, well, we got us Phoenicians, this Flat Earth British. But yeah, we have no, that was a massive fail, wasn't it? Meghan Malarkey. Yeah, seemed that we're a bunch of racists over here, and apparently we're not. We're not racist. I mean, in a World War II film documentary for the Americans when they come over, I was shocked to see that we actually was. I'm going off topic here. But we treated the blacks the same as we treated the whites. I mean, we abolished slavery long time ago. So yeah. So anyway, my own personal experience. Yeah, the police are violent, and there are some lovely police officers that are now being tarred with the same brush. But we've got new police officers that are coming in that aren't the same as the old police officers. And when my own personal experience, which I go through quickly, I was raped by a psychiatrist, and we eventually took him to court. Over 25 years, they went back on him, and they only found 6 others. And it was put on the news, the Welsh news. It was in all the papers. I was on the stand for 2 days because it was the worst. I had 4 years of rape, and by a stroke of a pen, he could have, and did, with other young men, in a hostel that I was staying at, because I had to go to this certain hostel which was held with psychiatric people, and I was fine going in, but I was a mess coming out from that place, because the people there shouldn't really be, to be quite frank with you, be in society. They should have had a lot of more help. Years ago, they used to lock up. They went too far one way, and then they went too far the other way. Then they released a lot of people into the communities, and they shut a lot of hospitals down, which a lot of them were. As a nurse myself, I've seen absolutely atrocious conditions. I'm glad I'm out of it. And speaking to other people that are in the care in the nursing profession, there's no care at all, and especially now with COVID, they've come in. Once you go into hospital, you're at the mercy of the nurses that won't even give you your medication. But there we go. I'm going off subject again. But yeah, when I went to court, my barrister never even cross-examined or even called forth any people that any more witnesses that could have wanted to come forward. They wouldn't take it on. It was buried. I found out that a lot of journalists in news organisations were threatened by the judge, and they had a gagging order put on them, so they couldn't report on it. He had a slap on the wrist that he'd only touched a healthcare support worker or an auxiliary nurse, or nurses in green, the lower nurses that are not trained. And he got away with just a slap. The GMC, the General Medical Council, did actually take his pension off him. And do you know what? From the when they came in, the police planted drugs in my flat, and I was taken to court. Plus I had a beating off the police, and they took up money out of my award money, that I didn't have, I wasn't warded nothing from the courts, but from the people that, you know, supposed to look after you. They put a case in, and I had a little bit of money back, which was 16,000 something, and they took, 3,000 something off me, plus they slammed money on top. That there was crumbs of pot, found crumbs now in a bag that they supposedly found in my flat, which they wouldn't put any police evidence in, but where they found it. So I had to, because it was found in my flat, by law I've got to claim responsibility for that. And they took money out. Who takes money out of a rape victim's award money to pay for the courts? And the judge was involved, and I found out now this morning, this is where I wanted to make a video, that the CPS, as anyone that gets raped, a man or a woman or a child, that the rapists will not be put down for their crimes. They've done away with that 5 years ago, so it was never any point me coming forward in the first place. I should have just left it there, not gone through it all, and just allowed him to walk away. So that's what was what I was trying to get at, really. And so if you raped in Britain, don't bother going to report it, because especially if you're a man, you're not going to have any support anyway. Never have done. The women might have a little bit more support, but your rapists are not legally deemed, are not going to be put down anyway. So that's the CPS, is the Crown Prosecution's position 5 years ago, that they're not going to condemn this behaviour, and probably it'll go for murder, later on. This is all coming up. This is all coming to the final act, shall we say. I've jumped over a lot, and I will go through it more. I'm just reliving it at the moment, but don't want to make it about me. There's a woman died, and it's only just highlighting, but this is just going to be all buried soon and forgotten, and probably so will my YouTube channel, which, let's be honest, I haven't got many subs, but the subs that I got have been great. So my special love to you all, and I'll upload this now to YouTube. And sorry for my rant, it wasn't planned, just got up, and I couldn't do a live stream anyway. I had a slideshow. I was going to put a slideshow up, and I was going to do it nice and tidy today, but there we are. So I think 38 minutes is enough anyway for anyone's attention. So if wherever you are in the world, my sympathies go out to you, but don't take notice of the absolute mentality that's going around, the herd mentality. Not just do what they say. I wouldn't say just do what they say, but just don't take it all into heart. If you feel your position of that you want to commit suicide, or you're very, very depressed, talk to somebody if you can. If you can't, and you're very lonely, look at some comedy, chuck some cartoons on, and just look at some. I'm still here, just about. I shouldn't be here, mind, but some interventions have come in that I'd say supernatural interventions. Plenty of occasions where I've tried to commit suicide have saved my life. So yeah, just keep it together, and we all going through the same. So you're not alone. Okay. So you take care out there, and all my love to you all, and I mean that. Peace and love. Hands extended. Hug. Take care. Bye now.